Welcome back, welcome everybody to this video. I'm Neetor here, and we are going to set for the NCAA Football 14 2023 schedule release part 1. The reason why I'm saying part 1 is only because uh, uh, two reasons why I said that. One is we don't have all the schedule of the teams I'm doing the full season on, for one. And two, there may be some last minute changes I'll need to do, and don't want to have to, do anything separate there. So I have NCAA Total 14 up here on the main menu because we're gonna go into the play now and do something in the play now, not an actual game, but showing you a matchup that we are going to do on the channel. Plus, I'm going to tell you, so that's why when I'm telling you something, it's going to be on one particular screen, whether it's in here or the game that I had already talked about. Right now, it's on the main menu screen because that's what I need to do. I don't have anything, no PowerPoint or anything to show you this time around for a schedule release or anything like that, but just means that we have I want to talk about on this video in part 1. This is another reason why I'm doing a multiple part. I don't know if it's going to be a 2-parter or a 3-parter. And so let's get on with the video. I have a little announcements to go over first before I get on with the topic at hand, which is schedule release. Maybe you see that movie, it's a TV movie. So the first announcement I want to go over on this video is what's the status of the channel and where we're going forward on this channel. Any live stream scheduled you see is probably going to be either an original Xbox live stream or a 360 live stream. Anything not scheduled is PS4 with the exception of audio only versions of Madden NFL and it'll be the show and I'll add PS4 games that I do audio only on, like Madden and Madden football, the new Call of Duty game whenever it releases. It'll be the show. We'll blow that way. Hockey is hard to do audio version of. It's a lot of action back and forth. So, any NFL, Madden football, just Madden football. The new Call of Duty whenever it comes out, and it'll be the show. can't think of any other ones I would do just audio of. So, as also when you see a live stream thing start or be scheduled, like there's four others other than this one that I'm live with right now. So 3 scheduled ones coming up. Then with the current live one, say the YouTuber Gaming Channel live stream and the date of the live stream, which is this one's going to be tomorrow the 17th, and then the 18th, 19th, and 20th. That means I don't know what I'm talking about. It could be a game. It could be a schedule list item like I'm doing today. It could be, like I said, a game or event. Or it could be a schedule list item like this. We will have other parts, whether they'll be tomorrow or not, remains to be seen. We will know, hopefully by the end of this week, whether or not the Big 12 has released their 2023 football schedule. Rumors had that somebody reports on Houston football, that one of the 4 new teams in the conference said Tuesday, and then it was reiterated from, I think, the UCF athletic department, from their athletic director, I think. And this is per source from another person who covers this sort of thing on YouTube. But then it was turned around and said, no, it'll be soon. So I'm guessing if they had confidence to at least at one point say Tuesday that we are getting close to seeing a schedule for it, once that schedule is released, we will bring it to you. So that's just that. And this is 2023 for NCAA 14. I mean, any FCS games that we play in the FCS versus FBS and FBS versus FBS. So football championship subdivision games that we do, which is the football championship subdivision versus football champion subdivision games, and then football champion subdivision versus football bowl subdivision games, and then football bowl subdivision and football bowl subdivision games will be able to I'm back. Like I said, FBS versus FBS, FCS versus FCS, FBS versus FCS will be covered here on this channel. Not every week of the college regular season will be an actual matchup. We'll have fantasy matchups. We'll have fantasy tournaments. We'll have dynasty mode. We have all kinds of stuff that is kind of mishmash of following the team's schedule, having an actual matchup, having a fantasy matchup, having a fantasy tournament, having a fantasy dynasty season, have a real life one particular team's dynasty season. More likely Oklahoma State. So that's what's being taught on this video. I'm sorry we've gone the whole entire way to explain that, plus the announcements to my channel behind that. I think we needed to go with that before we get going. So the first topic on this conference, or this schedule, we don't know really much conference games that we need to. We'll cover conference in a minute, but we're going to talk about non-conference games. First, let's go over 6. We will address some of these teams' whole schedules, and some we won't. Some teams will do a whole season with following their whole schedule. And I'll explain with the FCS team how we can do that. But these are this is coming from FBSschedules.com. Here, this is the 16 non-conference college football games that you want to watch out for and look that what they call the 16 games to get excited about, or the 16 non-conference games to watch for. So, starting off with Colorado and TCU. That one's going to be week 1, September 2nd. Again, we don't know if we're going to do it on September 2nd or not. Then you have also week 1, the 2nd. I'm pretty sure that game against Colorado TCU, I'm pretty sure that's we'll come back to that one and make sure that one's week 1. Like I said, then you have North Carolina and South Carolina, the Battle of the Carolinas. That's in Charlotte. Then you have Virginia and Penn State. That's a good matchup. Then you have the Battle of the Miamis, Miami of Ohio and Miami of Florida. Also, I want to point out that not only is go back to iterating the go back to the Penn State West Virginia game. They will meet again next season in 2023. This time Morgantown. This game this year is in at Penn State in I want to rate that is that Colorado TCU game is week 1, Saturday, September 2nd. Penn State, Virginia, also week 1, the 2nd. So a lot of games week 1. Doesn't mean there's not a lot of other games in the other non-conference schedule weeks, but there's a lot of them in week 1. All right. Let's go over some history. Oh, by the way, the West Virginia Penn State, a renewal of a lost rivalry. So there you have that. And this one, the Miami matchup, the battle of the two Miamis, Miami of Ohio, Miami of Florida. It marks only the 3rd time in history, the first time since 1987, the two Miamis have squared off against each other on the gridiron. First time for us that we've had that matchup before on my channel. They have Florida State and LSU. Florida State is one of those teams that will have the entire season with. We'll reveal their entire team schedule in a minute. After this is done, we will go over the 16 FCS games matchup, or 16 FCS matchups that we want to cover. And then some Division 2 versus Division 1 fantasy matchups that I think are going to be, that I've come up with that are going to be interesting. Alright, so now you have that's that. And then you have the teams that scored off against each other last year. Is Texas and Alabama. Again, this is a non-conference game, but soon to be a conference game when Texas moves from the Big 12 and goes to the SEC. Now, here's another one. We have Miami on the radar twice this year in non-conference scheduling. This time against Southeastern Conference's Texas A&M, so that's going to be a good game. Then you have Oregon and Texas Tech. All these games that I mentioned will be on my NCAA 14. That's kind of one of the reasons why we're doing this video. Then you have Carolina and Pitt. Or sorry, not Carolina and Pitt. Cincinnati and Pittsburgh. Or Pitt. The first time these two have squared up against each other since their days as Big East teams. One's a Big 12 and the other's a ACC. Former half-life conference Cincinnati and current Big 12 Cincinnati square up against former Big East current American Atlantic Coast Conference's Pitt. You have Ole Miss and Tulane. The Battle of Colorado. Colorado and Colorado State from Denver, Colorado. Ohio State and Notre Dame. Army, LSU. Second time LSU has been featured in this list. The first one was against Florida State. Then you have Notre Dame and Clemson. And of course, the big one that is every year, and the last one we're gonna have on this list. We'll mention other ones that we're definitely looking forward to bringing you. This is one of them, and that's Army Navy. The other ones that weren't on the list, but I'm looking forward to bringing that game to you on this channel, is Navy and Air Force, Army and Air Force, and of course the one I just said, Army and Navy. So Army versus both Air Force and Navy. Navy against Army and Air Force. So each team against the remaining two. That game will be in Foxborough, Massachusetts, by the way. This on the website says, according to the Military Officers Association of America, in 2023, Massachusetts becomes the only the 7th state to host Army-Navy game. That will be the 200. It'll be the 200 and 200 and 250th anniversary see here. Let's try again. The 2023 Army Navy game will be the first held in the Boston area. And it comes on the 250th anniversary of the Boston Tea Party and the 225th anniversary of the main voyage of the USS. The 225th anniversary of the main voyage of the USS Constitution, the world's oldest commissioned warship afloat. Alright, now let's go over some neutral site action that we are looking forward to bringing to you for the 2023 season. So we're going this is conference and non-conference, both, because some conference games are neutral site and some aren't. So you have most of the neutral site action is non-conference, but then you have a few conference games that are, and then you have some that are FCS. We'll get into that and see if we can do it. So let's go over it. You have, if possible, we'll do the MEAC and the SWAC challenge between South Carolina State University and Jackson State University. This is their first season. Jackson State will compete without Deion Sanders as the head coach after he left to Colorado. You have the EER Linus Cultural Classic between Notre Dame and Navy. You don't know how I'm going to do that one since that is Ireland. There is no same Ireland. We're going to try and get as close as we can to a stadium that would represent that best knowledge. The other one, the FCS one that I said, the SWAC MEAC challenge. That's in Senate Park Stadium in Atlanta, Georgia, in real life. We'll have that in the indoor state, the Atlanta Falcons Stadium. The game. Same goes for Georgia Tech and Louisville. It says neutral sites. However, this is basically just a home away from home for Georgia Tech, since Georgia Tech is in Atlanta. Then you have the North Carolina, South Carolina battle, North Carolina, South Carolina, from Charlotte, North Carolina. Virginia, Tennessee, from Nissan Stadium in Nashville. We'll have that from Music City. As well as Eastern Washington, North Dakota State from U.S. Bank Stadium in Minneapolis, Minnesota. We will have that one. As Big Sky versus Missouri Valley. We will have that FCS game for sure. Those two teams I already have pre-downloaded from Team Builder before it went down. We'll get into that, and we'll get into talk about that in a minute. Then you have LSU, Florida State in the Camping World kickoff from Camp World Stadium in Orlando. They ended their 2022 season in Orlando. They're starting the 2023 off in Orlando. So they ended 1 year in Orlando and started the next year in Orlando. Then we'll have, if possible, another game for Jackson State against Florida A&M. That's possible. We're not for sure. The reason why I say possible is if Jackson State was not pre-downloaded, and neither was Florida A&M. So if I'm able to download more teams, we'll try to test that out on air today. But that is the Orange Blossom Classic. The next one for sure that I'll be able to do is the one that's in NRG Stadium between Air Force and Sam Houston. Why is that? I have pre-downloaded I'm pretty sure I pre-downloaded Sam Houston. I forget which conference they're in, but we'll get that in a minute. And then you have this one. It's a possibility if I can download these teams, but if not, then we'll move on. If not, then the next game I say after this will be the next one, and that'll be the one that's a possible UAPB. UAPB. That's the University of Arkansas Pine Bluff versus Tennessee State in Memphis. And the next one, if we can't do that one, then we move on to the next one, which is Indiana and Louisville for sure. That one, and then the Mizzou. This one's kind of a funny name for this one, but the Mizzou to the Lou series, Memphis and Missouri, the Dome in St. Louis, Missouri. And the Southwest Classic, Cowboy Classic, however you want to call it. Texas A&M, Arkansas, basically Arkansas's home away from home because it's in Jerry World. Arkansas likes to play there. Then you have in Jacksonville the Florida-Georgia game, the one that I said earlier that we were looking forward to bringing, but wasn't in the 16. That 16 list is in this list here. Army Air Force from Denver, Colorado. Then you have from Foxborough, Massachusetts. I don't know how I'll do that since that stadium is not in the game. We'll figure out how we're going to do Army Navy. Then this is the only I repeat, the only Big 12 game that we know for sure is going to happen. We don't know when. We don't know when it's going to happen. We just know it's happening, and that is Oklahoma versus Texas. Jackson State again. We've had Jackson State 3 times on this list. And it's against Southern in Birmingham, Alabama. That's neutral site action. Okay, so now let's go into talking about what we know so far for the schools that we are going to be following. Starting off with the Florida State Seminoles. Their schedule has been completed, and we'll go over that right now. We have that game, like we mentioned earlier, that game in Camping World Stadium in Orlando, Florida, against the LSU Tigers, and then they'll travel home to take on Southern Miss, then North Alabama. That team has been pretty down, I know for a fact that I have pre-downloaded that team, and because of their helmets that I'm seeing here on my screen, my computer screen. So next up, early on, just the 4th week in of their season, just a 4th week. The 4th and final non-conference matchup for Florida State is against our in-state rival, Florida. Okay, those are the only ones that we know of the dates. That's the 3rd, 9th, 18th, and 25th. Then we don't know their conference scheduled dates. We do know, however, who they're playing in their conference schedule, which is at Boston College, at Clemson, home against Miami, of Florida, home against Syracuse, at Wake Forest, home against Duke, home against Virginia Tech, and on the road against Panthers. That is the first team that we are following. Let's see if there's any more from the ACC that we are following. Their schedule of Georgia Tech. The Ramblin' Wreck from Georgia Tech is the second team that we are following from the ACC. Their season goes like this. They'll play Louisville first off, then they play, if possible, South Carolina State, then at Ole Miss, Bowling Green, the two-time defending, meaning 2 times in a row, defending national champions Georgia Bulldogs. At Clemson, at home against North Carolina, at Miami, Florida, at Virginia, at Boston College, at Syracuse, and at Wake Forest. Alright, now, let's talk about if we can't do the South Carolina State game, it'll be replaced by somebody else. We don't know who. Hopefully, we can get that game in and played. Now, our next team from the ACC to follow, we were going to be following the Tar Heels of North Carolina. Correction. Tar Heels of North Carolina, excuse me. In that game, that schedule goes like this. We have South Carolina game first, and they have Appalachian State. Then you have Minnesota, and then Campbell Camels, Georgia Tech, NC State, Duke, Miami of Florida, Syracuse, Virginia, Clemson, and Pitt. Next one from the ACC is Duke. Doing them as well. Possibly Lafayette or somebody else if we can't do Lafayette. The Northwestern, UConn, Clemson, Notre Dame, Pitt, North Carolina, Virginia, NC State, Wake Forest, Florida State, and Louisville are the non-conference. Is their schedule. The Clemson, Notre Dame, and all that. We don't know when those games are in place because they got the conference scheduled to realign. They should have deemed the next one the week after, the 23rd, but I'm done for it. First, we don't even know when their off week is going to be. Yeah, we only know the off week for any of these teams. So, another one from the ACC, and the final one from the ACC that we're going to be following is the Virginia Cavaliers. Tennessee is their first game since the tragedy of the fellow players took place in real life. They played James Madison at Maryland, and then William & Mary. That one we don't know for. I think I pre-downloaded William & Mary, but I'm not for sure. The Virginia Tech is their only non-conference, or the only conference game, correction, the only conference game we know of the date of, and that. And then you got Miami, Florida, Arkansas, Duke, Georgia Tech, NC State, and Boston College. Miami, Florida is on another team we're going to be following the entire schedule of, and that is like this: Miami, Ohio, Texas A&M, Bethune Cookman, possible, if not somebody else, Temple, Florida State, Georgia Tech, Virginia, North Carolina, Boston College, and Clemson, Louisville, and NC State. That's it for the ACC, the teams that we're going to cover. If we have any other ones that we want to cover, I will let you know in another part, in the other parts, but we'll move on to the American Athletic Conference. Let's start off with two teams we're going to be following. We're only going to be following, we want to say three teams. Make that 4. 5. We need to be following the entire American for that matter, because there's only not many teams. Charlotte, East Carolina, Florida Atlantic, Memphis, Navy, North Texas, Rice, SMU, Temple, Tulane, Tulsa, UAB, USF, and UTSA. Let's start off with Charlotte. And again, the only reason why we don't know the entire schedule is because the entire schedule has not been released. Their first game of the season against South Carolina State, possible. If not, we will resale to somebody else. They have Maryland, Georgia State, and Florida State. So basically, the only ones we know are their non-conference schedule. If we're able to download teams again, we may download Charlotte again to their green white spring game. Alright, moving on down the list. East Carolina is the next team in line. It's Michigan, Marshall, Appalachian State, and Gardner-Webb running Bulldogs. We do have that one for sure, so all those will be done. We know that for sure. Teams I just remembered downloading. Alright. Oops. Florida Atlantic is the next team of the American Athletic Conference. They're new to the American Athletic Conference, so we don't. The reason why we don't have the conference schedule yet is because they are too getting realigned, so they have to get worked out as well. So then you have, if possible, the spring game. Then Monmouth, Ohio, Clemson, and Illinois. The two orange teams last. That's only 4 non-conference games. 2 on the road and 2 at home. Then we have Memphis. If possible, Bethune Cookman. If not, we will have to consider else Arkansas State, Missouri, and Boise State. The only ones that are in Memphis are Boise State and Bethune Cookman. The other two, one's a true road game in Jonesboro, Arkansas. The other is in St. Louis, Missouri. That's one against Missouri, by the way. Then you go over to the next team down the line in the American is the Navy Midshipmen. Notre Dame, Wagner, if necessary, if we can. Air Force and Army. If not, just Notre Dame, Air Force, and Army. It's just two military academies plus the other gold with Gray Face Mask team. That's Notre Dame. Alright, now the next one down the line is North Texas. Cal, FIU, Louisiana Tech, and Abilene Christian. Abilene Christian is for sure down there, so we will be able to do them. So that's that. Alright, now we move on to Rice. Texas, Houston, Texas Southern, if we can download them. I don't know if they're downloaded. I can't remember if they are or not. Kind of doubt they are. And UConn. Then on SMU, Louisiana Tech, OU, and TCU. So two Big 12 schools. Moving on to Temple. Akron, Rutgers, Norfolk State, if I can, and Miami, Florida. Next one is Tulane. South Alabama, Ole Miss, and Southern Miss. Only the non-conference has been scheduled. Two of which are in New Orleans, the other is in Mississippi. Then Tulsa, with on the entire season of UAPB. If we can nail them, if not, then we would start off with Washington, Oklahoma, and Northern Illinois. The only other one we would have is if we can replace Tulsa with somebody else, like more likely another FCS school or an FBS or D2 school that I've pre-downloaded. Okay, then you have UAB versus University of Alabama at Birmingham. North Carolina A&T, if we can. Georgia Southern, Louisiana, and the defending national champions, Georgia Bulldogs. And that's at Georgia. So tough road game for UAB. And let's go over the USF, which is South Florida. Western Kentucky, Alabama, and UConn, which is University of Connecticut, and possibly if I can download them, or Florida A&M. The Florida A&M and Alabama one will be at home at Raymond James Stadium. The others will be on the road. One's in Hartford, East Hartford, Connecticut. The others in Bowling Green, Kentucky. Now moving on to the next team, the next and last team of the American Athletic Conference, the TSA Roadrunners. Houston, Texas State, Army, and Tennessee. Moving on to the Big 12, teams like Oklahoma State for sure, we would follow their entire schedule. We don't know the entire schedule. We know one conference game, just know when it will be. And we had said this before in the neutral site games. That's Oklahoma and Texas. From Cotton Bowl Stadium in Dallas, Texas. The Irish are at Tulsa, home against SMU, and home against Arkansas State. And then you have the next Big 12 team we're going to be following is the Oklahoma State Cowboys. It's in Arkansas for sure because they are downloaded, and Arizona State and South Alabama. Next one we'll be following is Central Florida. Kent State, we know for sure. Boise State, Villanova. If we download Villanova, we can do them. If not, we'll have to try to see if we can't download them or not. Between now and that game, we have all off season to get these, try to get these downloaded. So no guarantees whether they're going to get downloaded or not. Then on the rest of the Big 12, the rest of the teams I didn't mention are Baylor, BYU, Cincinnati, Houston, Iowa State, Kansas State, West Virginia, Texas Tech, Texas, and TCU. The only reason why I mentioned any of those teams is we're not going to do the entire season. We'll do a few slight games here and there from them. Same goes with the Big 10, Conference USA, Independent, MAC, Mountain West, Pac-12, SEC, Sun Belt. Except for Coastal Carolina, we will have the schedule for them. And we only have the non-conference schedule for them, and that is at UCLA, home against Jacksonville State. If we download it, I can't remember if we have or not. Not, then we'll have to replace it with another team. Then Dunquest, if we have downloaded them, that's two of, well, one's an FCS school turned FBS, so we would have to download them if we couldn't. And then Dunquest is a Trillion FCS school. And then Army. That's for the Sun Belt. Now, of course, we'll be doing all the conference championship games. We'll actually be doing it on track, on schedule, unlike we did last year. Our next and like I said, we'll have a part 2 of this to complete the full schedules of the teams. So we did not do the full schedule of which are the Big 12 and the American Conference, American Athletic Conference, and the Big 12 Conference. So that's that. Now, let's talk about spring games, shall we? It's that time of year again for talking about spring games. That's our final category, spring games. That's probably what we're going to be doing first off, along with some fantasy matchups and fantasy tournaments, basically. These spring schools are real as it gets. If we can, Penn State, Florida Atlantic, Princeton, Lafayette, Charlotte, Alabama, Nebraska, Notre Dame, Rutgers, if we can. We do know that, I know it's not listed on here now, but it will be eventually. And that's Tulane, Oklahoma State, and Georgia State. Those three for sure. You of course, we'll have to do at some point as well, if we can. But for sure, Tulane, for sure, these are the ones we know for sure that we are going to be doing. That's Oklahoma State, Tulane, and Georgia State. Alright, now let's go into some random matchups that we are going to be doing. Our first one involves Oklahoma State, and they will be playing. Close our eyes and just go through this. If it's a conference one, we will go and do it again. We have to hit a non-conference game because we will definitely do that game. Just don't know when. We'll close our eyes and we'll go through this again. Stop. Northern Illinois should be a matchup. Oklahoma State, Northern Illinois. Our first randomized matchup of the 2023 season. Season, whatever you want to call it. Our next one will be two random teams. So, stop. East Carolina and stop. Fresno State. Ooh, should be good. East and West. And then that's the only two that we will be determined. We will have more in part two, and if we don't do it in part and all the parts that we have, then we will just randomize one game. We'll just get in here and say, oh, we're gonna play one random game, and then we'll go. Like, say we did one today, we would go stop, and then we would go. Stop will be Western Kentucky and Vanderbilt. Or whatever we did. When you have random teams, we could do that too, but I like this where you just hit up on the left stick, and then you just go real fast until you get to a matchup like this that you see on your screen. I'm just using an example. We may or may not do this. Depends on if we can get that again, that combination again. It's just possible. Alright, our final discussion. Dynasties that we'll be doing. We'll be doing an Oklahoma State, Tulsa, Oklahoma Dynasty. We'll be doing Tulsa, Oklahoma State, SMU, UCO, Southeastern Oklahoma State. Those are D1, D2 schools. We'll be doing Coastal Carolina Dynasty. In Florida State, we'll be doing a kind of a generic one. We'll be controlling more than one team. We're doing some fantasy tournaments, some fantasy virtual tournaments, virtual dynasty, all that stuff. Plus, like I said, the real life matchups that we are going to be, their key matchups, stuff like that. I just had to mention that was our next category. That was our last college category. Well, it doesn't mean that we are done by any means with this series. It's like I said, this is just part one. We'll have to do part two when we get, and that's going to be tomorrow. If they decide, we are going to release the Big 12 schedule and American Athletic Conference schedule tomorrow. We'll bring it to you whenever they release it, so we know what matchups we're doing, when we're doing them. So we don't know what Big 12 games that we're doing, when we're doing them, who Oklahoma State plays, who OU plays, who these teams play conference-wise, and when they're played. This has nothing to do with college football. The reason why I'm talking about it on here is the title says NCAA Football 14, which is the type of game we're playing. 2023 scheduled release part 1. That could be college football. That could be FCS college football. That could be anything we do with Team Builder, which is what we're talking about. And that is the USFL schedule. We're going to have some notes in this. In here, we'll go over the teams first, and then we'll go over the actual schedule. week by week. Since we are going to be covering every single team, we got to know week by week who they're. So, a little note: if I'm able to download teams, I will download the Memphis Showboats. If not, then the team on hiatus will be Tampa Bay, and they'll replace Memphis and basically just do sort of a thing like we did last year. We were supposed to do last year, actually. So you have Memphis, Houston, New Orleans, Tampa Bay, and Birmingham in the South Division. Pittsburgh, Philadelphia, New Jersey, and Michigan in the North Division. But like I said, Tampa Bay's on hiatus in real life. If we're able to download Memphis, they'll be hiatus on a hiatus in mind. All games kick off on, or this season kicks off the April 16th, the 10-week schedule, 10-week season. So, let's go over the schedule, viewers, and do we know who these teams are playing? We do know who these teams are playing. We just don't know when they're playing. Michigan will play New Jersey, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, Birmingham, New Jersey, again, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, New Orleans. Memphis or Tampa Bay, depending upon if we can download Memphis. We should download Memphis when we had the chance, but we didn't. And then Houston. The sites are going to be in Memphis and in Alabama. So, as for Michigan, then going on to our next team. The New Jersey Generals. So they'll play Michigan, both if they're the considered home team and the considered road team. Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, Birmingham, Philadelphia again, Pittsburgh again, New Orleans, Memphis or Tampa Bay, and Houston. Then we have, that was New Jersey. Philadelphia is next in line. That's Michigan, New Jersey, Pittsburgh, Houston, New Orleans, Pittsburgh, Birmingham, Memphis, or Tampa Bay. That's Philadelphia. Then we have Pittsburgh. Michigan, New Jersey, Philadelphia, Michigan, New Jersey, Philadelphia, Houston, New Orleans, Birmingham, Memphis. Like I said, Memphis or Tampa Bay. That's Pittsburgh, and then we do. We did Philadelphia. We don't right now. Moving on to Birmingham, Memphis, New Jersey, Houston, New Orleans, Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, New Orleans, Memphis, or Tampa Bay, both. And then Houston. So it would be one on the other, depending upon if we download Memphis, it'll be Memphis. If we can't, they'll be Tampa Bay. It's just as easy as that. Since it's a spring series, that it can't. If in the middle of the season before you get to that, then yeah, I can understand halfway through the season and changing it to Houston to go Philadelphia, Pittsburgh, Birmingham, New Orleans, Memphis, or um, Tampa. Tampa Bay, Michigan, New Jersey, and Memphis, or Tampa Bay. Then you have those. Then you have Memphis. And they'll be if they play, then they'll play Michigan, New Jersey, Birmingham, uh, Houston, New Orleans, Birmingham, Houston, New Orleans, Philadelphia, and Pittsburgh. If it's Tampa Bay, then they'll play those teams. If we can't download, let's find out and see if we can. As of now, again, this is not the only day that we're going to say whether or not Tampa Bay has to play instead of Memphis. If we can find out whether or not we can play Memphis or not, regards on just if once I type in Memphis here in the search thing, that it picks it up. It has been down for a little while now. I don't know if it's going to be continuing down or not. I'm hoping not. I'm hoping that we can download him at this team and then all the other FCS teams. Again, no, it has not. But that is okay. Tampa Bay will play in its place if we can't. So there's that. We're just going to keep on checking until the season starts. We were just going to, every day, even in the middle of the season, we will check. Because right off the bat, they don't play. I mean, we'll have to know when we get to if a team plays that team, first or not in the so like I said, that's just we don't know how it's gonna work and all that, but hopefully we'll know by the time the season starts. Hopefully we'll know, but by April 16th that we know the USFL. Okay, now move on to the XFL. That is not going to be done in that'll be done in Maximum Football. We'll have a separate video for that in the UFL. So I'll be in a separate video. Not even part 2 of this NCAA football because it's a different game. So that's basically gonna do it for this part 1. That's all the schedules I can give you that I know about now. If anything changes, like I will download some teams, and we find out the Big 12 schedule, then I will let you know then. But until then, this will be doing it for this part 1. Part 2 will come soon. Just maybe not tomorrow. Maybe it'll come on Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, or Saturday, or Sunday, or Monday, or Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday. We will try to get it sometime between now and when the season starts. We will know between now and the season starts because they have to have it. They have to have it done soon, so the teams involved can make the travel arrangements in real life for the travel arrangements for real life for those real life teams involved. And not only that, but the gaming content people can get their content out there for the viewers. And that's me included, trying to get it out there for you, and the people that I watch get it out there for all of their viewers. So they have to get the schedule done soon because the season will be upon us before you know it. Plus, those teams will have to get their real life travel arrangements made for those teams. So that'll do it. Until next time, keep on YouTube, everybody. We'll see you all tomorrow for another live stream.